Hi, I'm Kate Fauvell. I'm a photo-based collage artist born and raised in New York City. I still live and work here. My current studio is at PS 122 on the Lower East Side. My work is all about my city and me. I'm gonna show you some of it. First, I want you to meet my assistant, Maddie. She's my almost 2-year-old daughter. In this picture, she's in my studio in upstate New York, and she's showing off my process. I use these large-scale photographs to create all of my collages. The first series I'm going to show you is my legacy project. I started working in collage in 2014. After my grandparents passed away, I found all of these family photos in their house, and I didn't know what to do with them. So I started photocopying and making portraits. I didn't want these photos to stay in boxes. I wanted them to get reused and renewed. Look closely at this portrait and you can see old family photos, love letters, and newspaper articles. I created portraits of all the influential people in my grandparents' life to highlight their legacy and to show all of the people they touched. This next set of images is from a series called Archive Memories. When we put my grandparents' house on the market, I began to photograph every object in it. This image is an 8x12 foot collage painting of my grandparents' living room that I created from photos that I took of their house. When I started a residency at Mass MoCA, I had all of these photos I had taken of my grandparents' home, and I was unsure of what to do with them. The large size and scale of my working space at Mass MoCA helped me form the size and scale of this 8x12 foot body of work. This piece is called the dining room. I made large-scale prints of every photo and began to recreate my grandparents' home in full scale, building abstract versions of each individual room. In these collages, along with photos, I decided to include some of my grandparents' belongings. In this collage are actual magnets from their refrigerator. This piece is called Nan's Kitchen. In the final piece I'll share from Archive Memories, I started to take apart my grandmother's kitchen using close-ups of images inside cabinets and playing even more with scale. If you look closely, you can see an image of my grandmother working in her kitchen. 2 years ago, I was asked to create a piece about the gentrification of Brooklyn and began to photograph the new construction and the deconstruction of the Bed-Stuy neighborhood I was living in, taking pictures of old buildings and new high-rises. This piece, called Bed-Stuy, starts my series called A Love Letter to My City. Everywhere I went, I continued photographing structures and objects that I knew would soon disappear. I became fascinated with the unnoticed, the places and things I had passed by thousands of times and had never seen the beauty in. Here you can see an old newspaper dispenser and hot dog stand that are now gone. A Love Letter to My City captures the dirty, unpolished heart of New York. I have taken thousands of photos, enlarging and printing hundreds of them. I then use these photos to create torn paper and cut collages. They capture a nostalgia for a city that is in constant transformation. Each of these collages is 8x12 feet and made up of layers of photos, creating a textured landscape for viewers to enter. In my process, both the aesthetics and the physical act of creating are of equal importance, and like my city, my work is rough, layered, and vital. This piece is called The Tunnel. It captures both the historic tunnel building and the feeling of the chaotic turbulence of everyday life in New York City. This piece is of my Chelsea neighborhood. At the time I made it, I was living in affordable housing and photographing all of these expensive high-rises being put up around me. I became intrigued by old structures and which of them were preserved and which of them were destroyed. And it became clear to me how New York is in this constant state of hyper-gentrification, that if you're not creating, you're simply consuming. In this piece, you will see the iconic post office on 34th Street in Manhattan. Now more than ever, as the United States Postal Service is being defunded, we must fight to protect it. In November, we will of course be relying on it, and I'd just like to use this opportunity to remind you to request your absentee ballots early and to please vote. This image shows an installation shot of my solo exhibition at Binghamton University in the fall of 2019. The people standing in the foreground give you a sense of the size of these massive collages. The show was titled A Love Letter to My City, named after the series, and it exhibited 9 of these collage pieces. It was the first time these large works were all exhibited together in the same place. The next few images are taken from my studio. They are all pieces I'm currently working on or recently completed. The 2 pieces you're looking at began a new part of the series that used photos taken during the COVID-19 stay-at-home order. The collage on the left includes views taken from my apartment window during my quarantine after I was diagnosed with the coronavirus. Here are more works in progress from my studio in upstate New York. The larger piece is my most abstract to date, exploring the psychology of the pandemic. After the murder of George Floyd, I started creating a collage a day in support of the Black Lives Matter movement and the protests happening around the world. Some of those can be seen to the left of the larger piece. This is another one of the collages I created in support of the Black Lives Matter movement. Because I was in quarantine with my daughter, I couldn't be out protesting, so I wanted to honor the Black Lives Matter movement by using images of protesters in my collages, capturing this profound moment in history. My final piece I'm sharing today is in progress. It is my first collaboration where I'm not using photos I've taken myself. These photographs were taken by Monique Carboni, who has been out on the streets of New York documenting the protests. Fighting for systemic justice is now a fundamental part of my work, and it will continue to be until we see real change.